So, what if you could build a fortress inside your own mind? One that no matter what chaos is happening on the outside, it just couldn't be breached. Well, today, we're diving into a powerful philosophy of resilience that was forged in one of the most brutal conflicts of the 20th century. It's really a guide to finding control when the world around you offers absolutely none.
Just let that sink in for a second. Death was more magnificent than life. This single, shocking sentence really sets the stage. It comes from a world so extreme, so completely upside down, that the very meaning of life and death got flipped. This is our jumping off point.
So the man behind that quote is Wur Deng. His memoir isn't just a story about surviving something horrific. It's practically a manual for building an unshakable inner world, forged in the kind of adversity most of us can barely even imagine.
All right, so to really get this philosophy, we have to start with the world that created it, the absolute, total external chaos of the Sudanese civil war. I mean, just try to imagine this being your reality. No safety nets, the constant threat of violence, incredible loss, and zero stability. When your entire world is that unpredictable and dangerous, where do you even begin to look for peace?
And that question right there, it leads us straight to the heart of Luitz's philosophy. See, when you can't find peace in the world around you, you really have no choice but to create it inside yourself. He discovered what psychologists now call an internal locus of control. And this is the fundamental shift in his thinking. Just look at the contrast. On one side, you got this tornado of the external world, war, loss, powerlessness. But on the other, you have the fortress of the internal world, peace, agency, resilience. Luitz's huge insight is that you can't stop the storm, but you can absolutely build a stronger castle. It's a radical move from being a victim of your circumstances to becoming the master of your own inner state. At the very heart of this is that psychological concept, the internal locus of control. And all that really means is it's the belief that you are the one driving your life, not just a passenger getting thrown around by the waves. For Luitz, this wasn't some academic theory. This was his most essential tool for survival.
So how does this idea become a practical tool? Well, the very first step is embracing the power of self-reliance, which for him wasn't just a nice idea, it was an absolute necessity.
This phrase right here is the anchor of his whole philosophy. Now, it might sound a little harsh, but it's not coming from a place of cynicism. It's a conclusion he earned through brutal firsthand experience. A realistic look at a world where, in the middle of all that chaos, it felt like no one cares.
You can almost trace his journey to this conclusion. It started with that harsh realization. In the middle of a war, you're on your own. This was driven home by the necessary, heartbreaking action his parents took, sending him away just so he could survive. But, and this is so important, this hard-nosed realism is balanced by human nuance. He also found hope and help through the kindness and generosity of strangers. So self-reliance becomes his core strategy, but it never completely writes off our need for human connection.
Now, from individual survival, Luitz's philosophy kind of zooms out to navigating the wider world. A world that, let's be honest, is often built on unfair systems and power dynamics. This is Luitz's clear-eyed, totally blunt assessment of how societies often work. He's basically saying that the rules and systems are frequently set up to help the people who are already in charge. And recognizing this isn't being cynical. It's just being realistic about the game board you're playing on. And when people feel like a system is rigged, it naturally breeds resentment. That makes perfect sense. But for Luitz, this awareness becomes a strategic tool. Seeing the board clearly isn't just a reason to get frustrated. It's the very first step to figuring out how to play the game effectively, with your eyes wide open to how things really work. So, how do we take these lessons, forged in the fires of war, and apply them to our own lives? This right here is the universal takeaway, the strategy for building your own inner fortress, no matter what challenges you're up against. Think of these as the building blocks of that fortress. It all starts with that internal locus of control, the core belief that true peace is something you create. From there, you build with self-reliance and what you could call emotional sovereignty, basically depending on and governing yourself. And together, all these things cultivate the internal strength and self-governance you need to steer your own life no matter what's happening outside. And this is really the ultimate takeaway. The world is always going to be a little chaotic. Storms will always come. But when we shift our focus away from the storm and onto the foundation of our own inner state, our reactions, our resilience, we build a sanctuary, a fortress that cannot be broken into from the outside. So I'll leave you with this final, personal question. When the world around you feels unstable or unfair, when things feel truly out of your control, what will you choose to build within?